Alrighty guys, what's up? We're back. Last time I did the tier list video, somewhat alluded to the possibility after finding the tier list and all that we were gonna go off of the aspect of making an omegaverse tier list for the Twisted-Wonderland characters. So we found a tier list that it's missing a couple characters, mostly there's another tier list I found that has a couple different characters, but they share most of the ones that are there that are here present already. There's just like one of the guys from like the Old Kingdom in Book 7, like one of the military dudes, and the other tier list also has like the Queen of Fairies from the Fairy Gala. So there's like a couple things missing, but other than that, we're just gonna chug on and do an Omegaverse tier list. So before we officially get started, we're gonna break down the categories here. So we're at the top, we have Alpha, followed by Beta, followed by Omega, and then on the bottom we kept the category for uncategorized, just because of things with either their age, since technically these are kind of like high school to college age boys for the most part. Some are ghosts, some are seemingly also RSA Academy, so that also should be roughly high school college age. But there's a few characters that are younger, ghosts, family members, event characters, or other such things that we don't really get a whole lot of background on. So it's going to be some of the bottom. The only two characters I know for sure right now that would go in there are probably going to be Cheka, maybe Gino, and I don't know why I want to say Najima might be Jamil's sister's name. I don't know why the name Najima popped to my head. I think that could be right, but I don't, as we did with that last, or whichever tier that was, that we don't actually remember her name as per the current moment. But before we get into the full breakdown of categories and putting everyone in their specific spots, what we're going to be doing here is going over just a quick breakdown of what is the Omegaverse. So for those in the know, you probably just do already know. So as far as the information we found, or then not well found, I guess, but we already know some of it on our own. We're not giving our own personal anecdotes for it and whatnot. But as far as what the information we have here for the screen is gonna be just the overall breakdown on the Omegaverse from the Omegaverse quiz website. So we're gonna just touch on the finer points now. We're not gonna read word for word everything, but just kind of like the first few lines, just to get the overall breakdown. So up top, what we have: what is the Omegaverse? A reader's guide to the world of ABO, its origins, its rules, and the instincts underneath. The Omegaverse, also written as ABO for Alpha, Beta, Omega, is a shared fictional universe born in fanfiction where every person carries a second designation alongside their gender, Alpha, Beta, or Omega. Keep in mind, I'm not too sure how old the Omegaverse website is, so there's also like the different aspects you see now in fanfiction and fandom in general, as things that are like non-binary, intersex, all those different things that come up within the different levels of fandom and society at large. So, but personally, inclusive as an ally, so no issues there with however people choose to identify themselves and whatnot. But no, putting that aside, so that second nature shapes instinct, scent, attraction, and the quiet hierarchies between people. What began as one fandom's experiment has become one of the most read genres in fanfiction, and it now reaches from AO3 and Wattpad to published romance and best-selling manhwa. Where the Omegaverse came from, slight discourse, I guess, but for the most part, it's kind of generally accepted to come from the supernatural fandom, which we are a part of here since way back in the day, so pretty much its inception. But anyway, as far as what it says here on the Omegaverse quiz website, The genre traces back to around 2010 to prompt communities in the supernatural fandom where anonymous writers began borrowing loosely from wolfpack mythology, hierarchy, scent, mating instinct. The idea traveled fast, first through LiveJournal, then Archive of Our Own, and Tumblr, shedding its origins and becoming a framework any fandom could inhabit. 15 years on, since I guess this is at least written as of 2025-ish, 15 years on, ABO Dynamics ranks among the most used tags on AO3, and the Omegaverse has crossed out of fanfiction entirely. Dark Romance imprints publish it, Book Talk dissects it, and Korean BL manhwa built some of its biggest titles on it. Indeed they did. Not bad for a setting that started as an anonymous prompt. How ABO dynamics work. In an Omegaverse story, a person's dynamic is a secondary gender. It usually reveals itself in adolescence, in a moment called presenting, and from then on it colors everything. How you smell to others, who steadies you, who unravels you. Scent is the genre's true language. Characters read mood, attraction, and belonging by it. Long before anyone says a word, instinct runs close to the surface, the urge to protect, to nest, to claim, to submit or refuse to. And because no two authors run the universe identically, every story renegotiates the rules, which is half the pleasure of reading them. We're not really using the smaller aspects of presenting and whatnot. But as far as what we've got going right now, we are just going off the three main category distinctions. So from left to right, we have alpha, beta, and omega. So the gravity. Alphas carry command the way other people carry ascent without trying. In the classic telling, they are the protectors and the pursuers. All broad shoulders and low voices. Modern stories complicate them beautifully. The alpha who leads by silence. The alpha undone by the one person immune to their pull. In the middle, we have beta, the steady center. Betas stand outside the storm of pheromones, and the genre has slowly learned that this is a power, not an absence. They are the ones who stay clear-eyed when instinct floods the room. The confidants, the fixers, the ones everyone trusts with the truth. And on the right, we have Omega. The magnetic rarity. Omegas are the rare ones, written soft in the old stories and sovereign in the new. They nest, they draw devotion without asking, and the best modern Omegas weaponize every assumption made about them. And Omega's yes is the most negotiated word in the genre. So just that kind of middle ground clarification. Typically the alpha is seen as the one to be in charge of kind of scenario. That's typically the leader of the wolf pack and stuff like that, or the found family, depending on genre. But basically that they're like the leader. The beta is kind of like the middle ground. They see both sides and usually serve as a more kind of like objective aspect rather than like someone bogged down in the true submission or true domination aspects of things. And then the Omegas are typically like the ones fully sought after, but for our purposes here, as it says, they nest, they draw devotion, so it would be like the ones who would kind of have that pull that would be the draw for an alpha. And we'll maybe go a few of these terms, but these are just other things, typically tags within fan fiction, stuff like that. Presenting the moment a person's dynamic reveals itself. Often treated as second coming of age. Scenting, reading someone by scent, or marking them with their own, the genre's most intimate gesture indeed. Nesting, the Omega habit of building a refuge from soft, borrowed things. A nest is trust made visible. Pack, chosen family with structure, bonds, roles, and a fierce answer to who do you belong to. Heats and ruts, cyclical surges of instinct that strip away composure, the engine of much of the genre's tension. Yes, indeed. Bonds and claiming, a bite or vow that ties two people beyond biology. In most stories, it is permanent, which is exactly the point. Fated mates, the one sent in the world that reads as home. Destiny in this genre has a nose. Why readers love it? That part's not placed. And then if you guys care to, we might do this later on as well, just for a separate video. But on the Omegaverse website, you can also take the quiz and find out kind of where where your spot is within these certain dynamics. Obviously, it's not like a one-to-one thing, but kind of like a fun thing to do, so we'll probably work this in at some point as well. But now that we have our kind of general read on how the alpha, beta, and omegas work, so alphas being the charge, betas being more that like objective center, and omegas being the one sought after with that kind of like hidden power aspect behind them. Let's actually break down by the characters. We are mostly going off, especially for the event characters, because for some of them we don't get a lot, and they're mostly just used to move, not in a bad way, but they're used to move the plot along and show kind of like the main characters for the event. Not faults, I wouldn't put it at fault, but like their overall character build for the event and in general of the story. But as always, we go in ascending order from book 1 to book 7, starting with the House Warden, Vice House Warden, any senior members, and then any junior members, depending on like school age and whatnot like that. So starting with heartslabyul, we have Riddle. He would, given he's like that strict kind of leader, follow the rules type deal, tradition stuff, one would naturally assume he'd be going towards the alpha. Trey, ooh, okay. Trey, I feel like could be a beta. Kind of that, he's kind of that peacekeeper aspect as well. Cater, a little more, well, not that Trey isn't complex, but Cater is a little more complex in the aspect of he could be either beta or omega. Because he also strives to keep the peace, but at the same time he's sort of that kind of like free-spirited challenge to the rules type of aspect character that he has of his. So I feel like that's a little more within the omega aspect, but we might move him around, but I feel for now we'll probably keep him to omega. Deuce, he respects power. He wants to be a leader, but at the same time, he knows who he is, who is responsible for him. He knows his place. He knows his he knows when to put up a fight. He knows when to stand down if necessary. So I feel like that would be more in the beta category. Ace, he's not super one to stand down from a fight, so that kind of he can see things from both sides, but at the same time he tends to kind of prioritize his wants a bit more. So I feel for that reason we'd put him into omega. Leona, okay, so I mean based off the Scar and the Lion King thing, one here would assume he's the alpha. And within like animal dynamics and whatnot, he is. But hear me out here. At the same time, he knows his place. He knows people's places within the dynamics that they serve and all that for his dorm as leader. But at the same time, he can get bogged down in his own ideals and whatnot. But he is also one who seeks change. He knows that to be better off is to have the involvement of change overall. So because of that, I do believe we will keep him as an alpha. Ruggy, he knows his place in the chain of command. He can delegate. He knows when to take charge if need be. The hyenas, in regards to how they serve their aspects, they're kind of deciding factors in some ways, but I feel like they would overall be betas. Like they know their place, they work within their means, they try to get ahead, but they're not actively looking to become the leader. Or at least Ruggy seems to not be that kind. Like if he would be the leader, he would probably enjoy it, but at the same time he is also of the I don't want to be kind of like overly responsible if things go wrong type, I think. And because of that, I feel like he belongs in the beta category. Jack, kind of very much the same thing. He knows his place. He knows his abilities. He knows what he can and can't do. He's somewhat... He wants to improve. There's nothing wrong in that sense. I feel like he's either Omega or Beta. Like he knows where he's at in his place in the world, so to speak, but at the same time he is also striving for more. Like he wants that kind of thing. Beta or Omega, but I feel for now we'll put him in Beta. Azul is all about contracts. He strives for that kind of like balance of power. He is in charge and he knows it, but at the same time he will do what it takes to get ahead, which to some extent could be bad. It could be leaning towards Omega category slightly, in my opinion, but I think for now we'll have him as an Alpha. Jade. Ooh, okay. I want to say Jade is either Beta or Alpha, just based on what I can recall of vignettes, events, and stuff like that, and then just overall personality type. I will say most likely we'll put him in Beta. While he and Floyd do kind of defer to Azul, at the same time they do kind of like, not always, but they are kind of more that like tormenting force. Like Azul knows not to like overstep his bounds type of deal. So I feel like that could be an Omega. But for now we'll put Jade in Beta. Floyd, very whimsical. He wants to not be bored, which I suppose is always a good thing. He not to say he wants more, but in the sense of like he wants more out of life. Like he'll like bounce around from something once he gets bored of it type deal. He's not afraid to challenge tradition, I assume. He's like, if he sees someone as like weaker to him and like that weaker person is theoretically the one in charge, I don't doubt it for a second that Floyd, once he grew tired of like being the subservient one, that he would try and take power for himself in that aspect. So because of that more slight whimsical aspect, we will put him in Omega for now. Kaleem. Ooh. Being a house warden, you would assume Alpha, but he is very much he's more of a flighty and whimsical personality, similar to Floyd in that whimsical aspect, but he is not. He's very kind of rose-colored glasses type of thing, so he needs to go to Omega. Jamil, he's the de facto leader of Scarabia whenever Kaleem is not around, or whenever Kaleem kind of like fucks up, which is kind of a lot of the time, given how kind of like good-natured and stuff Kaleem is. He's like easily tricked and whatnot. He's not that good a student apparently either, Kaleem, so he's always kind of cleaning up the messes of the person who is supposedly his superior. So in that aspect he's a Beta. He's more objective than some of the other characters, but at the same time he does strive for that like balance of power. Like he knows he's like subservient to Kaleem because of his role as his kind of like attendant and whatnot, but he is ultimately kind of the one in control. So for that reason we are going to put him in Alpha. Vil need not be explained, he is Alpha. Rook, a little more. Again, not to say that none of the characters are more complex. Some of them are slightly more complex than the others, but in a slightly more simple regard of Rook does have that Alpha personality. He does have that Beta personality. He does have the Omega. He has, I would see, I mean, naturally people are more than just one layer of individuality and personality, but in general I think that Rook does have a little more of that beta to him than he does the omega. He has both. I just think he has a bit more of the omega aspect to him. Apple, he wants to be strong, similar to Jack. He knows his place, but he tries to challenge it. Kind of a brat to some extent, depending on like certain vignettes and events and stuff like that. A little bit of that bratty nature to him. But he's a strong individual. He knows what he can do. I think he'd go to beta. Idia, he's by default the leader of his dorm. Well, not by default. He's proven himself, I'm sure, but he is the leader of his dorm, so that would put him as an alpha. He wants to be more of the behind the scenes guy, so that could be more as a beta. I feel like that could be more of a beta move, yeah. I'll put him in beta. I think that's a good option. Ortho, kind of similar to Idia in that regard. He's more outgoing and personable, but at the same time, like, they both know that they're strong. They both know what they can do and can't do in some aspects, but at the same time, Idia does defer to Ortho a lot of time. He like not necessarily follows his to say he follows his lead is correct, but like he gets convinced by Ortho to do a lot of things. So for that reason, we're gonna put him as the alpha of Ignihyde. Malleus, he's a bit of that Omega character. He's a bit of the beta. He's a bit of the alpha. He is basically the next heir to Briar Valley. So by that, it would put him as alpha. But he is, in a sense, you could say he's gullible. In the sense, not. But I'm using gullible more in the sense of like in the sense like you don't really expect the worst out of people a lot of times, so because of that you're either surprised that they don't or surprised when they do screw you over type of deal. So I think for that reason we will put him, I feel like might move him to alpha, but I think for now I'll leave him in omega. Lilia, the rest of the diasomnia boys, I feel, all know their place in their rankings. They're like, not to say that they don't strive for more. They obviously want more. They're like loyal to Malleus. They'll do anything to protect them, to make sure all that's okay and whatnot. They know what they need to do. They know their roles. So I feel like that is both beta and alpha to some extent. But I think Lilia does have a little more of that alpha and omega vibe. Silver and Sebek do have a little more of that beta vibe, in my opinion. Crowley, he is the head of Night Raven College, but at the same time, he holds his rank over the others like a means to an end, but at the same time, a lot of time, he just kind of defers responsibility to the others. He's like, okay, you guys fix this up for me, I'll like kind of fuck around, and then when you're back and everything's fine, I'm like, yeah, we did it. So in that sense, he is a little more, I'll put him in the omega, I think, in the omega category. Trained. He is one of the teachers. He's strict, he's the history teacher, he's about appearances, he knows, he expects a lot from his subordinates. For that reason, we'll put him in alpha, and as his familiar, Lucius goes with him. Cruel, kind of similar reason. He doesn't have a familiar as far as we know, but he's more that Cruella de Vil style alpha. He expects good things from his subordinates and those in charge of his care. Those he is in charge of the care of. How the fuck I was going to word that, I don't quite recall. But by virtue of how he is, we are putting him in alpha. Vargas, he knows he's strong, physically at least. I'm given he's a teacher at Night Raven, it's safe to say he's a very good mage also, but I'm sure he knows his strong His strong suit is physicality, so I'm sure he's probably knows that Train and Cruel might be more geared towards the magic side of things. So I think for that case, he'll probably be in beta. He is based on Gaston though, so Gaston is naturally seen as the alpha, but he is more of that showy alpha. So I think for that context, putting him in beta is okay. Next, we have Sam, the proprietor of Sam's Mystery Shop. Not quite a teacher as far as we know, but he is Night Raven College staff. Bit of a domineering attitude. He's playful. He has that kind of like Lilia vibe. He knows he's strong, I assume. Like he probably has to be, given he has like potions and like who knows how many magical artifacts and stuff like that that he's in charge of. So that would lean me towards putting him in alpha, but at the same time, I feel like that more like whimsical side to his character would lean to put him in omega, at least for my liking of things. Grim, if you asked him, he would tell you he's an alpha. He says he's strong, but I mean, obviously he knows like where he doesn't do good. He wants to be perfect, he wants to be strong, so he knows that. He'll challenge his superiors to an extent, but at the same time he knows like they're kind of outmatching him. Like he knows he's not gonna like beat Malleus, despite how great he thinks he is. No, I'm sure he knows that he wouldn't be able to hold a candle to Malleus. Though there is that whole thing of Grim being the dire beast from the opening thing of the game. So theoretically, if he has all 7 Overblood stones, he would presumably be able to at least match the Overblood strength of the 7 that did Overblood. But for now, we are going to put him in Omega, I think. He, I think, is the headmaster person for Royal Sword Academy, I'm pretty sure. I don't quite remember his name. But given he has the uniform of, like, the guys who are the 7 dwarves and whatnot, I think he's meant to be the quote-unquote boss at Royal Sword. We don't know much about him, or at least I don't quite recall much about him. So for that reason, we are going to put him either into uncategorized or alpha, just by virtue of, I assume he's not the same as Crowley of like being like, oh hey, no, you guys take charge of this. He's going to actually try and help. He does have that more kind of like, not as a shot on Crowley, but he does have that more kind of like dignified, regal-ish appearance. So I think he might be in uncategorized for now, but we might end up moving him to alpha at the end of this. We don't know much about the dwarves outside of they're based on the dwarves. This one is, that's Happy, that's Grumpy, I'm pretty sure that's Doc. That's Sleepy, I think that's Dopey. No, that's Sneezy, that's Sleepy, I'm pretty sure this one was Dopey. But, fuck, I don't remember the 7 dwarves' names. It's Doc, Grumpy, Happy, Sneezy, Sleepy, Dopey. There's one. Who the fuck am I missing? Doc, Happy. There's no Sadie. Teary, no. Fuck. Okay, whatever. Just because we don't know much about most of them, we're going to put the majority of them into uncategorized. Grumpy, even regular Grumpy, would tell you he's the alpha, but they all kind of defer to Doc for the most part, so for that he will be going into beta. I'm pretty sure was the Doc character's Dominic, I think was his name. So we will put him in alpha. Most of them are beta, but the ones that I don't really remember anything about will go here. Yeah, I mean, kind of makes sense. Him. Yeah. Chenya. he knows his place in the roles, he knows his thing, but at the same time, he is a Cheshire Cat, and the Cheshire Cat is nothing if not whimsical. So for that reason, I will categorize anything Cheshire Cat adjacent into Omega. Nage, who is basically Snow White, has that same aspect of Snow White, so I feel Snow White is the Omega there. Claude, or Rollo in this case, but Frollo, the leader, he's a, not the pup, what is he? He's a Count. Count Frollo. He's a leader in his thing, he knows his role, he fucks it up badly, he gets beat. But while he's doing it, he is an alpha. We'll put him in alpha. The character of... I don't know why I'm thinking Nigel. I don't think that's his name anymore, but I don't know what other name to think, and that's the one that comes to mind, so we will be calling him Nigel. But Zazu, he's the advisor to Mufasa and to Simba later on. He is the one kind of doing things behind the scenes, so that puts Beta, but at the same time, he is also the one who trained Leona and stuff like that for stuff. We see that dynamic of it in the Cloud Calling on the Savannah event. So I think because of that, we would like to put him in Alpha. Dilla Spade, Deuce's mom from the Rabbit Fest event. She... single mother. Seemingly, we don't know much about Deuce's dad that I can recall. Strong personality. Knows her role. Strong of character. I feel she's either Alpha or Omega. I think we'll put her in Alpha. Marja Felmir. We have Apple's grandmother from the Harvestin Sled-a-thon event. She's the matriarch of her family. Even Apple's like, damn, okay, in front of her. For that reason, we shall put her in Alpha. The Ghost Wife, I forgot her name, but she's from the Ghost Bride event. What's it called in English? What's it fucking called? It's the Suitor Suit event. It's the Love at First Fright, I think, something like that. She's all about traditional stuff. She's like, oh, okay, no, like, you have to court me, like, no, like, for the romance aspect. So she's based on tradition and roles. So I feel because of that, she would be Alpha. That could be Beta, though. But no, she's kind of rose-colored glasses about it before she gets talking to by Ace. So I feel like that puts her in Alpha. Ernesto. He's based on Foulfellow, and Gino's based on Gideon, so they're Foulfellow and Gideon. He doesn't have magical ability. Well, I mean, he does, but he's, like, quote-unquote, not strong, which is not necessarily true, but he strives for success. He knows he's pretty good with his magic, but at the same time, he strives for more. He's, like, realistic about things, so I think because of that, we shall put him in Beta. Gino doesn't talk, and we don't know much about. He allegedly doesn't have magic, but that could have been a lie on Ernesto's part as well, so who knows. But I feel like he's... well, I mean, his outfit in the mouth, he's technically supposed to be Jiminy Cricket. But he's the cat, so the cat companion to, you know, Foulfellow is Gideon, or however you say his name. But yeah, it's like Foulfellow and Gideon, but he has the freaking kind of like Jiminy Cricket outfit, so I don't know. But at the same time, I feel like because of that, we'll put him into Omega. Could potentially be uncategorized, but I think Omega is okay. Cheka is the nephew of Leona, son to, I guess technically Prince / acting King Felina of the Sunset Savannah, so he is the next heir to the throne for Leona's family. He's a child. We don't know much about him. He's very kind of bubbly personality. He's seen to be pretty young. We don't know I don't think we know how old he is. It's not mentioned, but he's pretty much Simba, technically. But I think in this aspect we'll put uncategorized. I think her name is Najima. I don't quite remember, but Jamil's sister from the Firelit Sky Over the Sands event. More whimsical than Jamil. Seemed a fun character for the most part. We don't quite know her age, so that could put her in uncategorized. But as far as just kind of like personality dynamics, whimsical, kind of like being like, oh yeah, I don't see these roles necessarily as like a necessary thing always. I feel like that could put her in Omega category. Next we have Malianor Draconia. Most recent heir outside of Malleus for the throne of Briar Valley. Strong, imposing, should put her in Alpha, so... oh, shit. Goddamn. Alpha. Okay. Next we have Bauer Zigvolt. He knows his role. He was second to Lilia. He was second in command to Lilia, who I guess technically is second in command to Malianor and Ravern. Strong, imposing character. You could assume Alpha, but at the same time, in knowing kind of that more objective side of things, he should most likely end up being in Beta. The Dawn Knight, we don't quite know his name. At least I don't remember his name. He's Silver's father to an extent. I mean, biologically, yes, but... strong, imposing character. One who seeks justice. That could go to Alpha. But he also at the same time wanted peace and whatnot, so that could serve Beta option. I feel like that can go Beta. There we go. Beta. Skelly, he kind of messed things up with his signature spell for the boys during the Lost in the Book event, or his part of the Lost in the Book event. Fun character. He is pretty whimsical, kind of old-timey and whatnot. He respects Jack Skellington, so he's like, he would defer to him despite being like, no, he doesn't like it this way or whatever from the event. That is definitely more of a Beta thing. He does kind of have that more rose-colored glasses approach, so that could be more traditionally Alpha type thing situation, so that could go Alpha. But I feel like he'd end up in Beta. Eric, I forgot the name they used for like separate thingies, but he's Bill's dad. Imposing character, good looking overall. I mean, based off the image. He's famous. He's imposing as a character. He's got good personality and whatnot, all that stuff. I feel like that would quantify him into being Alpha. Mama Leech, she goes into Alpha. Just there's not much more explaining that I need to do. Certain characters explain for themselves, and she is one of them. And I forgot his character name, but he's the one for Oogie Boogie in the other part of the Nightmare Before Christmas Lost in the Book event. But I think for him, Oogie was about challenging things. He does have more of that. He wanted to be in control, but at the same time, his thing was mostly just of like challenge the norm, kind of, sometimes. That could be Omega, could be Alpha, he could be either three, but I feel appearance-wise he'd be Alpha. Kind of challenging the norms and status quo stuff, I feel like would be Omega. But I think we're going to put them in alpha. Okay, you guys, well, let's just revisit who we have. In uncategorized, we have Cheka, 3 of the dwarves, and who I think is the headmaster of Royal Sword. In Omega, we have, going right to left, we have Jamil's sister, Gino, Nige, Chenya, Grim, Sam, Crowley, Malleus, Kaleem, Floyd, Ace, and Cater. In Beta, from right to left, we have Scully, the Dawn Knight, Bauer, Ernesto, I forget his character name, but Sneezy, Sleepy, Grumpy, Vargas, Sebek, Silver, Edia, Apple, Rook, Jade, Jack, Rugi, Deuce, and Trey. And from right to left in Alpha, we have Oogie Boogie. I forgot her name. What was her name? I fucking love her. What's her name? I'm thinking Morgana, but that's freaking Ursula's sister's name from The Little Mermaid 2. Regina. No. Regina? Georgina? I think Georgina. One of the two. Eric, I think, was Ville's dad's name, I'm pretty sure. Malianor, the Ghost Princess, I don't quite remember if she has a name. Marja Felmir, Dilla Spade, what I think is Nigel, but basically Zazu. Rolo, but is basically Frollo. Dominic, who I'm pretty sure his name is Doc from the Dwarves. Cruel, Lucius, Train, Lilia, Ortho, Vil, Jamil, Azul, Leona, and Riddle. But anyway, that's going to be it for this one, you guys. So as always, thank you so much for joining. Feel free to share and like the videos, subscribe to the channels, all that good shit. As always, drop your thoughts on how you think this shaked out, what you think your rankings are, what you would change, anything like that, and any possible future tier lists you might want to see like this. We'll probably do more Omegaverse stuff for future things, future IPs. We'll probably do Genshin, Sariel, all that shit. We'll do multiple ones throughout timing, but just as we're still on our dwindling supply of Twisted-Wonderland tier lists. But we're going to stick with this big list and then just change up the categories for the sake of novelty. But anyway, that's going to be for this one, you guys. So as always, thank you so much for joining. We'll catch you on the next one. Signing off. Peace out.